We are in the middle of tax season. If you're lucky enough to get a refund this year, what do you do with it?
Yeah, for more on that, we want to go with finance expert Nathan Grant. Thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Of course, happy to be here.
Nathan, all right, so we are in tax season. Many Americans are looking forward to their tax refund. Share with us some smart ways to spend that refund money.
Well, of course, everybody's financial situation is going to be unique in some way, but tax season does fall fresh after the holiday shopping season. So many Americans find themselves eager to pay off either credit card balances or maybe replenish their savings account in the new year. So if you're expecting a refund this year and you have high interest credit card debt, you should prioritize paying that off with the tax refund, or at least a chunk of it off with the tax refund. That way you're not throwing additional money away every month towards interest charges for those balances that you are carrying. But if your credit and debt situation's in good standing, but you don't have a good amount of money in your savings account, you could use the money from a tax refund to bolster your savings account. That way, if unexpected expenses come up or an emergency, you're not leaning to things like credit cards, which could cause further damage down the line. You are actually dipping into money you actually have.
Yeah, those are good ideas. I mean, but what are some things, because when we say how should people spend their money, you can always come up with plenty of ways to spend extra money. But what are some purchases that Americans should avoid with our tax refunds?
I think what it is the things that we're often tempted to splurge on, like electronics, clothing, things you might have been holding off on buying, and now you get this money and you're like, ooh, I should get this now. Or, of course, we always think maybe cover some travel costs for a vacation that you're owed. And those are all good things if you're in pretty good financial standing. But we're coming off of 2022 that was pretty challenging, and we're starting 2023 with a lot of those same challenges, like inflation making the cost of pretty much everything higher than we'd like. So if you have those things like outstanding credit card debt, loans, don't have much savings, you're going to be facing those challenges with the extra financial strain that is just unavoidable due to the current economy. So your tax refund could help mitigate some of those stresses. So really want to avoid those unnecessary fun purchases if you find yourself in those shoes that could really use the benefit.
Great advice, Nathan. All right, so the IRS noted that tax refunds might be a little bit smaller this year. What are some key things, would you say, that people should know before they file their 2022 return?
Right. Well, I think there's two things to look at. Overall, just for everyone to be aware of, is there's some pandemic-related tax benefits that we've had the past few years that ended at the end of 2021. So that could affect how much you're getting back this year compared to last. If you go, wait a minute, I didn't really change much of my situation, but why is it less? That's something to keep an eye out for. But also, a lot of times people took matters into their own hands over the past few years, whether it was the pandemic or inflation, and maybe took on like a side gig or some freelance work on the side. And if you've changed your income situation a little bit to help mitigate some of those costs, it might affect how much you're getting back, or maybe you might even end up owing depending on those changes. So just keeping those things in mind this year, I think, is very important when you do file.
Yeah, absolutely. That expanded that child tax credit. It's a big one that we're not getting the increased amount this year, right?
Exactly. So it's keeping in mind, everybody's situation is different, like I said, but there are sometimes those overarching things that you just going into it being aware of is going to prevent you from being surprised with, like, oh no, what changed? I didn't do much different. It's things like that you got to be aware of.
Yeah, that's a little bit of anxiety inducing.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that is the same for everybody, the tax filing deadline. When is that this year?
It's usually April 15th every year. Because that falls on a Saturday this year and the following Monday is actually a holiday, it's going to be Tuesday the 17th, unless you're in Alabama, California, and Georgia. They've been affected by the storms this year, so they have until May 15th.
Oh, okay.
All right. Nathan Grant, Senior Finance Expert for Money Tips, thank you so much for joining us this morning.